What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of High Performance Earners. I'm here with actually one of my old bosses from way back in the day. Like, I guess it was what, 2000, 2005?
Yeah, it's a long time ago now.
Yeah, geez, 2005. Lee Cassells. And I will never forget your accent because you're like one of the first, like, real Scottish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the first real Scottish guys. Like, damn, like this guy's legit. And yeah, we worked together for what, almost 2 years,
Yep.
something like that. And
Yeah, had a lot of fun.
it was a ton of fun back then. And I really admire your tenacity because there were days where you were literally in that office with stacks of paperwork and you were going bonkers, man. I couldn't believe it. And I always remember being like one day I'm going to be a manager. One day I'm going to have that responsibility. And then watching you, I was like, man, I don't know if I really want all this responsibility, but I mean, you've done some amazing things over the last little bit. I mean, geez, we're looking at 16 years that have gone by. And I know that you wrote a book, which is one of the things that are on my bucket list. And you've just been in the fitness industry and all that sort of good stuff for a while. So I just figured, who better to come on to a podcast than someone who's in sales, knows fitness, and been around for, over 15 years. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin. It's appreciated.
Really right on. So do you want to give people a little bit of background on just who you are and where you came from?
Yep. So as you mentioned, obviously I'm from Scotland. My wife thinks I've got a fake Scottish accent because she likes like the sound of Shrek, etc. And she thinks that mine is fake. So it's kind of funny. You mentioned that it sounds Scottish. So yeah, I started off obviously in Scotland. I did a degree in sports coaching, sports management over there, and then worked for some of the major health club chains over there. Got bored in Scotland, wanted to explore the world, wanted to see kind of what else is out there, kind of similar to you, Kevin, of always wanting to see what's there and what else you can do kind of concept. Was in a pub one night having some drinks with my friends and got offered a job in Saudi Arabia because I'd applied to a bunch of different agencies around the world. And they bet me that I wouldn't take the job, and I bet them I would. And within 90 days, I was on a plane and went to Saudi Arabia for 2 years to go manage health clubs and sporting complexes over there. Yeah, so I went from being a 20-year-old, no responsibility, no kind of cares in the world, to going to a totally dry country and having a bunch of rules and a bunch of different things happening in the world. It was around about the time that Saddam Hussein was still beheading people, and so it was a very different time. It was one of the best experiences in my life because it definitely taught me to be humble, definitely taught me to respect rules. Yeah, just a whole gamut of things I learned over there. It was amazing. And it was, yeah.
So what was I'm just curious, what was the gym life like over in Saudi Arabia? Like,
Yeah, so it was a bit different. I worked inside the compounds. So I worked for a company called Aramco. So Aramco is the biggest oil provider in Saudi Arabia. And they have compounds with anything from 5,000 to 20,000 people that all live inside these compounds. So it's basically like mini America inside these walled cities. So we would go in, we would have like a running track, volleyball courts, tennis courts, swimming pools, gyms, and we would set up all these activities and all these things for all the expats to do. But there was a combination of Saudi and expats, so it was very different. Teaching Saudi Arabian people how to exercise, or how to stay fit, or how to be active when it's so not or wasn't part of their culture 15 years ago. So their thing or their word is inshallah, meaning God willing. So you're like, okay, you need to do 15 reps of this or 12 reps, or you need to swim laps. And they're like, yeah, God willing. It's like, no, you have to because you're overweight. You get borderline diabetes, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, inshallah. If God takes me, they take me. You're like, no, this isn't how like your body works. Like your heart beats, which means you need to exercise. And so it was very simplistic way of kind of teaching them of let's go for a walk. Let's just get in the pool. Let's just try pick up a dumbbell, like very, very baby steps because there was no concept exercise back there. But it was neat. It was fun. It was definitely different.
yeah, I bet you no Lululemon and sports bras on
No, everyone was wearing their white robe, their white robes. to come to the gym. Like, they didn't come in shorts and t-shirt. The females would come with full veils, and you weren't allowed to look in the eye. You weren't really allowed to say certain things a certain way to them. Their husband always had to be there while you were instructing them what to do, or you'd instruct through the husband, and the husband then told the wife what to do. So yeah, it was neat. It was definitely an eye-opening experience, but one that I wouldn't change.
Yeah, no kidding. That's yeah, I mean, you see the stuff on TV and whatnot, and in the malls and driving, but like you don't really think of fitness and I mean, over here it's just normal for us, throw on a t-shirt and shorts and go to the gym, throw on your headphones and hey everybody, and high-fiving people at the gym and doing all that sort of good stuff. So so what was the reason that you left?
The reason I left was it was coming towards the end of the war, or the kind of war times over there. And growing up in Glasgow, I wasn't used to seeing that many guns, and I didn't like guns. And the problem with the Saudi Arabian army, at least when we were over there, was it was very young and very immature, meaning that they didn't really know how to hold the guns. They didn't really have safety procedures for the guns. So when you got stopped at a checkpoint, they were as nervous as you were. So they were pointing the gun at you as they're talking to you. And the very kind of nervous, twitchy kind of, we're more scared of you than you're scared of us kind of concept sometimes. And it was just a couple of scenarios and a couple of situations that it didn't feel safe for me, because I lived inside Saudi Arabia, whereas most expats live inside a compound. So I was living in the communities with regular Saudi Arabian people, which is super cool because I got to meet and experience things. But at the same time, you got to experience probably a little bit, I wouldn't say racism, but it's the first time that I've ever felt that because of the color of my skin or because of where I was from, that I was definitely alienated of, okay, that's a white American, because that's all they assume. And then they would kind of pinpoint you and harass you. But that was kind of the reason I left, unfortunately. But some of the nicest people I've ever met were some of the Saudi people, in terms of parking my car in sand dunes by accident, and then nobody helps you other than the Saudi guys, and they take you home and make you coffee and tea, and like some of the nicest people I've ever met in terms of being like looking after you.
Yeah. And after that, was that when you came over into Vancouver?
Yeah. So I met a female when I was over there, just a small world, and she convinced me that Vancouver was way better than New York, because I wanted to move to New York next, which thankfully I did pick Vancouver. And then moved to Vancouver and got a job with an organization called World Gym. So I worked with World Gym for, I think, 4 or 5 years, and was managing Port Coquitlam, Surrey, and Burnaby locations for them. So that was my kind of first taste of Canada and first taste of the gym environment in Canada. And then from there, progressed through a whole various different brands, like the Steve Nash brand, where I met you, Innovative Fitness, and then started consulting for a bunch of fitness brands as well after that.
Yeah, I remember when we opened up the the Surrey World Gym. The very first, I remember walking in there being like, wow, look at all this new equipment. Like this is amazing. And yeah, the Burnaby one there on Lougheed, that was that was good times, man. That was really where I learned my sales skills. Actually before that, I was working at a different gym as a membership sales guy. And I think I got the job there when I was 17 years old. There was no commission. It was just hourly wage or whatever. And I remember when I got the job at World Gym, it was, I think, $75. I think we got commission from a sign up, like a 2-year sign up, and then whatever their fitness plan was or something like that. Yeah. And I remember my line for closing people is, we walk upstairs and we go to like where that workout fitness room was, right? Where it overlooked the whole gym. And we'd be leaning on the thing, whatever, overlooking. And it's like, yeah, so, so like, you want to get yourself a membership? We're like, wow, $30 a month. I go, $30 a month is about the same amount that you spend on a pizza and, a 6-pack of beer for one night. And the person's like, okay, I guess you're right. Pretty hard to not be able to justify that. And, I remember just loving that job. It was really where, the rules are a little bit looser. You can mingle with the people, you go walk
Yep.
around and work out and do your thing, and just wear polo shirts, and it wasn't too strict. And that's really where I learned how to talk to people on the real like a real closer type thing. Because again, that was my first probably major commission job, where it was like, wait a second, so you're telling me I can make as much money as I want today?
Yep.
Like, nothing holding me back. I can do whatever I want. And I got to say thank you for hiring me, because if I didn't get that job, I don't know where I'd be. And everything kind of snowballed from there. So after the gym, you pretty much stayed in the fitness industry for a while there.
Yeah, I took on, I was a director for the Steve Nash brand for a while. So we started off, as you know, with that one brand or one location. And then by the time I left, it was 17, 18 locations. So it went from one 40,000 square foot location to 17 of them. So that was a neat experience to live through that. And then I took on a franchising opportunity with a brand called Innovative Fitness. And that brand ended up scaling all across Canada with personal training studios all over the place. So that was a really neat opportunity. And now, I do a range of different organizations and businesses now. So it's fun.
Awesome. So I want to talk to you about a book, because I know you wrote a book, and this has been on my bucket list forever. I'm an avid reader, and it's just so cool where you could take someone's life experience and you smash it down into a book and you can read it in a week. So what was that gave you the idea or the inspiration that, like, hey, I got to take everything, all my experiences, and actually put it into a book?
It's always been on my bucket list to write a book. And a little bit of a personal kind of thing is, I would say that I'm almost borderline dyslexic in terms of writing, reading, that kind of idea. Like, I really struggle with it compared to other people that I know. So it's always been on my bucket list of I'd love to write a book one day, because it's in my head, it was so far removed from what is possible for me. And then a gentleman called Stan Peake, who I'm really good friends with, was like, hey, we're writing a book together because I love your sales concept. I love all your ideas. I love all your things that you do. I love all the things you teach. Let's write a book, because he's very heavily on the business coaching side. So I'm like, okay, I trust you. Let's write this book. So that was kind of the catalyst, was him just giving me that little bit more of a push of, we're going to do it together. And then just going through that whole process of, as we started writing it, we're like, who are we writing it for? And the big thing for me was kind of like helping you, was there's so many people that have amazing talent. They just can't get out their own way. So they see sales as this bad word of, I can't sell. I don't know how to sell. I stumble with my words. I feel bad taking money from people. And Stan comes from the business coaching side of, he had a lot of chiros, physios, massage therapists, major clinics that were almost borderline failing, because the same thing, they did this amazing service, but they just couldn't take it to market. So I'm like, okay, I'll help you with this. You help with the business coaching side. And together we can help all these people basically break their own glass ceiling of, you're not selling, you're just having a conversation. And the conversation is to help people get what they want. You're not trying to trick them. It's not a steal of a deal. It's nothing slimy. It's purely just, how do you have a good conversation so that you can help them, they can help you, and you can both grow together. So that was really the big catalyst behind it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, a lot of people, same thing, oh, sales is bad. It's like, well, what are you selling? Like, are you selling used cars that you don't know what's under the hood and you can't get behind your product? Or are you selling something you're super passionate about? And I think that's the reason it has a bad stigma is, back in the day, if you wanted a sales job, you took what you could get. And now there's so many opportunities online or, brick and mortar. Well, maybe not so much during COVID, but there's so many opportunities out there to get behind a product that you're passionate about. And that what I believe is the most important is that you use it yourself.
Yep.
Very hard to sell or convince someone that, hey, this is something that I think you would need, but honestly, I don't need it. It's no, because it's hard to build that rapport and to synergize with people and get on the same page. And I think one of the strongest sales techniques is testimonials. And when you have a personal testimonial and you can say, hey, listen, I stand behind this because of X, Y, Z, it's a lot easier for people to, take that as a genuine sort of response, where, like I said, if you're selling a car, then you really don't know what's under that hood of a used car. So, but getting back to the book, what was the hardest part? Because like when I think of writing a book, I kind of bounce around and I'm like, okay, well, I'll do this or I'll do that. And like, but what if the paragraph's not long enough? Or what if the chapter's not long enough? Or what if I, leave something out and I got to come back? And like, what was the mental process? Like, where did you start, I guess?
We started with like the why, like why are we doing this and who are we doing it for? And I think if you really nail that down at the start, then it definitely helps that thought process as you're putting stuff on paper of, okay, I'm speaking to, we always had like the avatar in our head of, we're speaking to Mr. and Mrs. Physio, Mr. and Mrs. Chiro, Mr. and Mrs. Clinic owner, Mr. and Mrs. Doctor. They just want to do good in the world. So when we had that thought process in our mind of how do we word that to that person versus, okay, if again, we'll use the car salesman guy, it'd be a totally different book. This is how you do this. This is how you not trick them, but this is how you take them down the path. This is how you do these things. Like, whereas if we use that verbiage with Mr. and Mrs. Physio, it wouldn't have resonated because like, I can't do that. I don't know how to say that. I don't know how to bring it up in conversation. So we did it in a way of one, who we send it to and why we're doing it really first. And then that really helps all those paragraphs kind of come together after that.
And how long did it take you from like, when you're like, all right, we're going to do this to holding it in your hand?
From start to finish, around about 6 months. And bear in mind that the two people that I did it with, one was Stan Peake, who's like a business coach and genius. And the other one was Catherine Brownlee, who's HR expert that recruits for major companies all across the country. Both of them are super A-type personalities. Like, we met every week. We had tasks every week. We knew who was responsible for what part every week. We held each other accountable every week. Like, so it wasn't like, kumbaya, let's just meet every Monday. It was like, hey, we've got 15 minutes. What have you done? How'd you do it? Do you need help? Why are you not on task? Next week, what have we got? What's the targets? What are we going to get done? Like, so like if you're going to do it, then definitely hold yourself accountable or have somebody else hold yourself accountable. If not, it's always just going to be that paper that sits on your desk that is always half finished and it's never actually going to get released.
Yeah, I can. That's again in my head. I'm like, I have all these ideas, but it's like, where do you start? And when you do get started, when do you know you're done? And that's the other thing is like, because as I'm sure you were writing the book, you were constantly learning and growing and critiquing your ideas. And
Yep.
when it was done after that 6 months, did you know it was done?
Yeah, we kind of wrapped it up enough that we're like, okay, this is enough information that we're not going to scare, again, our ideal person. Then that was when we knew it was done. Like, can we take them from start to finish, that they can read it, they can apply it, they can hold themselves accountable, and they'll want more. Like, they'll want to go buy another book from someone else, or they'll want to get that next level of education. Like, that was a big thing for us, is we didn't want to have a massive thick book that nobody ever reads, or they read the first couple of pages like, this is too much for us and we're out. So that was a big thing for us. And I think that was part of the reason why it ended up becoming a bestseller on Amazon, was because we made it very niche. We knew exactly who that end user was.
Yes, absolutely. And that's when we're with our marketing team, we tell people like, you cannot niche down small enough, right? Yep. Like it's like when we jumped on today, my niche market, 25 to 40-year-old sales guys that are making $50,000 to $80,000 a year, that are into fitness and that like dogs. And, and people go, really? Like, but what about all those other people? Well, yeah, there's lots of books for those people, but this is the people that I really relate with. So I'm glad that you brought that up. So what was your favorite part of the book? Like, what was the part that you're like, that you really synergized with the most?
Both me and Stan really, like, going back to your point, like really heavily focus on avatars, like who you actually speaking to and how do they actually want to be spoken to. So that's always a huge thing for both me and Stan and Catherine, of stop speaking the same way to everyone, because everyone's not listening the same way. Yeah. So if I'm speaking to you, we can have a laugh, we can joke, we can be similar personalities at that point. But if you were sitting in a shirt and tie and you're a totally different person, you're an accountant, and you're like times money kind of thing, then the way I'd speak to you needs to be totally different. Like, so just knowing your audience and knowing how to adapt all the time to that audience is key. And I see so many sales guys or so many business guys or even managers speaking to all their employees or all their customers the exact same way all the time. It's like, okay, there's a not everyone's listening to you, so why are you not changing your message to that group, to this group, to this group, so that you can get your message across better? So I think that was quote unquote the funnest part, or the most like, this is actually something that we do. We don't realize we're doing it all the time, and we need to start educating people more often on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've grown a team of over 1,000 people, and there's so many different sort of mentalities in there. We have 60-year-old small business owners, and we have 25-year-old stay-at-home moms, and
Yep.
different messages, right? And they need to be approached on a different level. So, well, what about writer's block? We hear this term writer's block all the time. Did you ever get like stuck where you just didn't know where to go?
Yeah, it's not so much writer's block. It's more, for me at least, it was more like, okay, I've got the idea, but how does that sound on paper? Like, how can I explain that concept? How can I explain that idea? Or how can I explain and also give you a tool so you can actually go implement it? Because there's no point where like, this is how this works. Well, that's it, finished.
See ya.
And then the person's like, great, I understand how it works, but how do I do it? So it was always like, okay, here's how it works, and here's how you can do it. Here's how your task is. Here's how you implement it. Here's your worksheet. Here's your manual, whatever that thing was. So for me, I think that was a bit the mental block of there's so much things you want to share. But again, like narrowing down, like who's your actual audience of, okay, that doesn't fit that audience. It's just frustrating of give you so many things, but how do you narrow it down just to that audience so that you're not, again, confusing them or upsetting them or make them feel uncomfortable?
Yes, I agree with you there. We're in the process of building out our new training system and sales funnel. And like I said, I have 60-year-old small business owners and 25-year-old stay-at-home moms. And the training that we do is the implementation. It's like you could read all the books, you can watch all the videos, but if you're not willing to take the actions and you can't see yourself actually producing, then you don't do anything. And then you're just wasting your time. And finding that fine line between, hey, this is how you do it, or you could do it this way, or you could do it this way, depending on where you're at, and trying to meet that person in the middle. So yeah, that's awesome. I mean, some of these questions I kind of knew what to expect, but I really like how you're breaking it down and pulling it apart a little bit more, because I think there's a lot of people where when we're looking at getting started in online business, that's their number one concern is, okay, yes, I see it, but I don't think I can do it.
Yeah. And I think sorry to cut you off there, but I think the big thing that, and a simple thing that anyone in your audience can do is it's called True Colors. And it's basically just 4 quadrants that everyone lives in. So you basically color code people, but you color code yourself as well. And really knowing who you are as a person. I feel intimidated this way. I come across as arrogant and rude to the rest of the world. I do this and it might upset people. And I don't realize like we, for one of the brands that we used to work with, we would color code all our customers, and we had thousands of customers per location. And inside the file, it would have a color code next to it. So I knew if I was speaking to Kevin, he was a color blue, which meant I had to do this, this, and this to get my message across. Whereas if Kevin was speaking to me, I'm a color green. I have to get spoken to this way, or I'm going to get annoyed and get upset. So knowing who you are as a person, but also knowing exactly what you said is our audience, but finding a tool that helps. So something like True Colors or another kind of platform that you can just do simply, like Kevin's this, I know how to get through to him, is really important.
So when you say colors, are you talking like the 5 different sort of personality types? Like, yep. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. So so anybody out there that's listening, my personal best sales training I've ever done is actually not from a sales coach. It's actually from a psychologist named Jordan Peterson. And he does lectures. He used to teach, or I think he's still at McGill University. And he would film all of his personality lectures. And there are literally like 2.5-hour lectures, and there's 20 of these videos. And It's getting to know you. Like, who are you as a person? Because you're a human being, I'm a human being. We both have the same thought process. And for the majority of us, we've all grown up watching the same stuff. I think everyone on the planet has watched a Disney movie at some point in time.
Yeah.
Right? And there's so much symbolism and all of these sort of little nuances. We see it over and over and over again. We build these patterns. And, you know, for a lot of us, it's simply just understanding who we are that is going to make you a more relatable person, because not everyone is like us. And like you said, you red, blue, green, purple, whatever. But if you don't know the differences, then this is where sales gets hard, because you're not connecting on that personal level. Maybe someone's kinesthetic, maybe someone's more auditorial, maybe someone's more visual, or whatever the case is. And I think it's very underutilized that so many people just feature benefits sell. Oh, well, you need this because of that. It's like, yeah, but what about the person? What about the underlying needs? What about the things that they're not telling you? Those are the things that make the deciding buying factors generally, most of the time, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Amazon bestseller, that's something that I want to do at some point in my life. So what's next for you in for 2021?
What's next? Wow, it's a big question. Well, one is I'm the CEO of a technology company right now. So we run all the payment processing, technology, apps, etc. for the fitness industry for major brands all across Canada and the US. So definitely expand that brand more into various other markets. And the other project I'm working on right now is an organization called FSQ Consulting, where we're going to help other brands kind of break the glass ceiling, so to speak. So I've partnered with a bunch of other really, really smart people. And the concept is we don't believe in status quo. So if you want to be status quo, then don't hire us as consultants, because we're not really interested in talking to you. If you really want to be a rocket ship and you really want to get to that next level, watch We Wish For, because we will make sure that you get there and beyond. So that's the concept of that brand. So both of them are going to be rocket ships in 2021. And that's definitely the plan.
Love it, man. That's so cool. Well, I really appreciate you coming out with us. I haven't talked to you, one-on-one like this in 16 years. It's like I look at 2021, I think back like 2015, and I still feel like I'm the same guy. It's like as I'm getting older in age, I still feel like I have that essence that I did when I was younger. Because sales, I think if you're a salesperson, you're a salesperson forever. And it's that synergizing and meeting people and seeing somebody get excited about a new product or a new direction, or just having someone there to help them out, I think is really important, because you can do things and you can make money, but the impact that you have on the world is what I think is the most important. And being able to write a book, that book's going to be out there forever, man. Like, you're going to be remembered forever. And that's something that I generally look up to. So again, I really want to thank you for coming out and having this talk with us, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
Yeah, no, definitely. Anytime. Thanks, Kevin.
All right. Cheers.